Happy New Year, everyone. This is the Rebel Scum podcast special called Ranking Star Wars. I'm James Razile. Today I'm joined with...
Ranking Star Wars, Broxmate.
As usual. And look, on a different camera, we have those two guys over there. Let's start with the one with the Darth Vader shirt. Look at the camera. Don't look at me.
Hey, it's Rob here. With Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, actually.
And beside him...
I'm Andrew, and I'm not representing Jedi or Sith today.
And in another country which is sending its cold air this way, we have...
Yeah, my name's Josh, and we don't got no cold air here that doesn't come from you guys, and you know that.
Oh, no, you have not been to Buffalo. It is freezing cold.
Buffalo's pretty cold, that's true.
Buffalo. As I said on the top of the show, we are ranking Star Wars, the hardest thing on the planet to do.
Our second time doing it.
It's our second time. I watched last year's, because last year's was fun, but last year there was a difference. It was only... 5 of us had the rankings last year. This year, once again, I did my top 9, because now there are 9 films. Brock, top 9. Andrew, top 9. Rob, Josh, you brought your top 9. Aaron brought hers, and Fatty Fan Theories brought his. So we have 7 people.
Our friend quota went up this year.
It did. I'm so happy that we started this YouTube channel just to meet people. I think next year, because there's no Star Wars film coming out in December, we should add the patrons to this.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and read the comments.
And everyone's just like, it's so impossible. I'm like, watch, look how hard it is when you have to do it. So we did our best. So we did our best with it, but there are 7. And the way it works, Brock, do you want to describe how we come up with the order at the numbering system?
There are 9 movies. You put them in the order you like them. But the way they place on your list is allotted points. Yeah. Number 9 gets 1.
Number 9 gets 9. Oh, yeah, sorry. Number 9 gets 1.
1, and then... It ascends. So number 1 gets 9, number 9 gets 1. And then we add them all together and we ruin our friendships.
Yeah, basically.
We will be fighting drastically because, as you know, Last Jedi is a hot topic these days.
It's a hot topic. Hey, where'd you guys get those shirts?
The Toronto Fan Expo.
Yeah, it says Toronto on the back, so.
Oh, so they're lame as hell.
Oh, wow. It says, made in Philadelphia.
We are not biased whatsoever. But yeah, so this was fun. It was fun adding them all up. And I think we're going to have some stuff to talk about going here. Before we get started, Josh, I'm going to go around the room and the other country. Tell me what you think will be number 1 and what you think will come in last. Just off the top of your head, quickly, Josh.
Okay, last is probably going to be Attack of the Clones. I think that's pretty widely accepted as sort of a lower one, although I could see something else being down there too. I think first, I guess the blanket choice is Empire. Most people consider that probably the best. So that should be like your standard, I guess. But I'm sure we're going to be way off from that. So,
Rob?
Well, I think it's probably going to be pretty close to what it was last year. Last year when we did it, it was Return of the Jedi that was at the top and Attack of the Clones at the bottom. So I think it's probably pretty close to that.
And Andrew?
I think Attack of the Clones is going to be at the bottom where it shouldn't be. It should be at least number 3. I'm feeling that this year Empire is going to sneak past Return of the Jedi.
So Brock and I know the list. Spoiler alert. We
Cheers.
know what's happening. Well, I had to add it up, and he had to make sure my math was good because I have terrible math skills. So we will not give it our prediction, but let's just jump right into it.
We should have wore like suit jackets like we're sportscasters.
Andrew, where are you on this one?
Tickets and money and stuff.
Yeah.
We should be betting on this. I don't know about your country, but we love to gamble down here. So.
We do. Kind of. Not as much as not to your...
We're reserved.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Number 9.
Number 9.
Attack of the Clones. Congratulations. You guys predicted it. Andrew, I want to start with you on this one. I know I wrote a list of what order we're going to go in, but I'm changing that completely based on the order of these movies. Because, Andrew, this is your favorite prequel.
This is absolutely my favorite prequel, and I'm going to tell you right now where I put it in my list. On my list, it was number 5.
Yeah. I told you, actually. I said, Andrew... Put Attack of the Clones really high on your list.
You did. And I put it about as high as I could get it. This is a sad day. It gets... I'd love to hear... there's all those articles out. Here's 25 reasons why Force Awakens is garbage. I'd love to see one of those about why Attack of the Clones is supposedly the worst prequel. I've never seen that. Yeah, I'd love to see that, like breaking down why is that the worst prequel in everybody's minds. I'm upset. Coliseum represent. You're still number 5 to me, baby.
We did a video on why we love Attack of the Clones. We did an episode
That's
of
right.
Unleashed on how we do it. Josh, what are your thoughts on that one?
I mean, like, Andrew, I could do a video on why the Attack of the Clones is the worst, but it's literally such a bad movie that people won't even watch the video explaining why it's bad. So there's no incentive for me to do it. Look, there's a lot of stuff in that movie that's dope, like in all the prequels. I love the Dooku Yoda thing, Anakin at the end of the movie. The Jedi Coliseum is awesome. There's actually really good moments between Dooku and Obi-Wan when Obi-Wan is sort of his captor. Really intriguing stuff that I wish they would have explored more. But the reason is just because of the Naboo scenes. And look, we know now that Natalie Portman was literally phoning it in because her and George Lucas were like, "Urgh!" So that's exactly what you get. You get one of the worst performances ever by a pretty good actress, and you get Hayden Christensen stuck in the middle being like, I'm supposed to be effing Darth Vader here. Yeah. This is whack as yeah, so... it's just the pacing during the Naboo stuff that's really whack. Love the beginning, actually. Love the clones themselves. There's a lot of good in there, but it just happens to be the weakest Star Wars film, in my opinion. So it makes sense. It's on the bottom.
Brock?
You know what? Something has to be at the bottom, and I think you've affected my feelings towards Phantom Menace, so, like, out of courtesy to you, I don't put it at the bottom. But, like, I have no hate for any of these movies, and I can find something... I mean... Attack of the Clones, you can say you almost hate it. Like, that's where we get sand. I hate sand. It gets everywhere. It's coarse and harsh to the touch or whatever. But, like, I love the Clone Wars show, and I feel like you have to respect Attack of the Clones because that's where we see them. Like, Kamino is very cool. The battle at the end of the Coliseum at Geonosis is cool. And then seeing the CG Yoda for the first time with a lightsaber is awesome. So it's like... It's just like something has to be at the bottom, and like I feel like Revenge and Phantom have their own merits that are higher than Attack of the Clones. So
Andrew does not feel that way. Rami?
Yeah, I think in my opinion, Josh really nailed it on the head with it. It's my least favorite of the 9 movies as well. Again, yeah, there are some really good scenes. Like my personal favorite scene in the entire movie is the Slave One asteroid scene where he's tossing back the seismic bombs. Like that's really awesome, and yeah, the weakest part of it is the fact that you got to rely on Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen's chemistry together. It's like Hayden Christensen was literally just staring at her like a creeper from across the room for like that first little bit of the movie. Like it was kind of uncomfortable to watch him do that and watch it afterwards. So that's one of the big things that really hurts this movie.
Plus, talking about Anakin and Padme, like that time jump, even though it's like, yeah, you could rationalize it, like he's 12 and she's 16 in Phantom Menace, but like they look, you know, to go from Jake Lloyd to Hayden Christensen, it's just like it's very jarring. You're like, but yeah. Is what it is.
Kind of like Luke Skywalker tossing a lightsaber like an episode of Animaniacs.
No, that's cinematic.
Totally just joking. I'm just joking. I'm with Andrew on this one. This was my number 5. I don't really like to say what my order is because I like to rig the system. But this was my number 5. Look, and I say it on the show all the time. Whenever I'm like, I'm going to watch Star Wars, this is the one that I put in my Blu-ray player. Yeah. I don't know why, but I do. I love this. It grows on me every time I see it. And so I'm going with this one for number 5. So we're going to move on, or number 9. So we're going to move on to number 8 now, which is the greatest Star Wars movie of them all. Is number 8, The Phantom Menace. This is the best Star Wars movie that there is. Brock, why don't you tell me why?
For our generation, it's our first Star Wars movie in the theaters that we saw. You know what, like our first was the original trilogies, but this was the first one where we could go on opening night. I mean, they did re-release the original trilogies in like the late 90s or the early 2000s, so you could see 97. It. But yeah, 97. Thank you. But this was the first one what we could be excited about, and I think most of the people in this conversation were almost adults, teenagers. So it's like we could make the executive decision that we like Star Wars. And it was exciting. It was like, oh, this must have been what it was like. And then, of course, you know, I wouldn't say it's a terrible movie. I don't remember hating it like everyone else hates it. And also, it's, I guess, our first experience as fans of, like, hatred for Star Wars. Where you're like, what? But again, like, they wanted to tell the story of Darth Vader, and they did. And I think they did a pretty good job.
I absolutely love the Phantom Menace. Everybody knows that. I love pod racing. I love Jar Jar. I love Qui-Gon. I love Boss Nass. I love Ben Quaterneros. I love Sabalba. I love Tatooine. I love Jabba. I love. There's something about the Phantom Menace that more than any of the prequels feels like Star Wars to me. I don't know what it is. It could be that it was shot on film for the most part, and it could be that the whole green screen stuff didn't take over. I don't know what it is, but there's something about it that draws me, and I absolutely love it. There are things that aren't, that I'm not crazy about. I remember the first time I saw it, the midi-chlorians was something that I was like, well, that's weird. But I've gotten over that because it's been 20 years. And I get over things. It's been 20 years? Or 10 years? 20 years. Oh, my God. We're old.
Almost, yeah.
So almost, yeah.
Remember when they released it at 3D?
18.
And then Disney.
And we went. We went.
Yeah,
we were the only
we made Daryl go.
Yeah, we did. We were the only ones in the theater, and everybody else was watching Dear
Empty
John
theater.
or something. It was something else that's going on. Rob, why is this the greatest Star Wars movie ever?
Well, for me, it isn't still. It's still in that echelon of Attack of the Clones. It's right there at the bottom with Attack of the Clones for me. But the beauty about this movie is that, in my opinion, it probably has the best lightsaber battle fight scene out of any movie. Like that whole ending with Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan just like really brings up the movie in a lot of ways. Like I could just turn on that scene at any moment. Like, people rag on the fact that, Obi-Wan should have force ran through the doors, but it's like literally the only scene that they ever force run in those movies is at the very beginning of that movie. And I feel like if you're gonna do a special edition about a movie, just do a special edition about this movie and just take out the force run. Then everyone will be happy, right?
I think Ray force runs.
Ray force runs, sure. But yeah, Jar Jar. I don't love Jar Jar, but I don't hate Jar Jar as much as
Can you
other
just
people.
cut his mic?
I just Jar Jar's can be annoying, but yeah, sometimes he's a fine character. Yeah, this movie isn't the greatest because the pod racing scene, while it's okay, it's like
get out of here.
All right, I'm gonna finish my discussion on this. I just think that it's at the bottom. It's with the other two prequels.
Josh, why say you so love this a movie? Use
it in doo-doo this time. Here's the thing. This movie actually has an incredible story. Like, if you think about it, like two Jedi go on a peace mission, discover a war plot, crash land on a planet, meet an alien species, save a princess, have to stop at a backwater planet, meet the Chosen One, have a battle with the Sith for the first time in 1,000 years that they've ever been. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. I think that the movie just hits people in a weird way because it's super different than what they were used to. Like, people say The Last Jedi is very different, and I guess it is in a lot of ways, but like not the way this movie was different. Like, this movie was like a chrome finish on like a hot ass Mustang when you're like used to driving around like a really cool buggy that you thought was dope or something. Like, it's rock and roll. I like the movie. I just think it suffered. It doesn't necessarily suffer. It's just that a lot of the other Star Wars movies are just legit better. There's awesome, like Qui-Gon Jinn's my favorite character from that movie, and he has some awesome moments, imparts some really cool wisdom, and I'm really intrigued by that character. It's just I guess I just think other movies are better. That's all. I don't really hate on it the same way other people do. So,
Andrew,
My give up. This movie kind of, it has the distinction of being the only Star Wars that came out when I could classify myself as being a kid. Everything else, I was older or not born. So this kind of has that distinction for me. It does fall in this spot for me, number 8, but that's not so much like I hate this garbage movie, but it's more like what Brock said earlier, like something's got to be down there. Yeah. But it takes me back to that kidness. It takes me back to recess in grade 6. Everybody wanted to be Darth Maul. I always wanted to be Obi-Wan, and I was cool with that because I ended up walking away as the only survivor. And it'll always remind me of the Obi-Wan video game on the original Xbox. God, I love that game so much. You know what I'm talking about, Josh? You played that game?
Yeah. It was awful, but I loved it.
It was so much fun. And Rob, what you brought up about the lightsaber fight, I think it would be kind of neat if episode 9 is truly going to be the end. Imagine 9 ends up having the best fight since that one and what we end up with is a saga where the best fights are right at the beginning and right at the end. How cool would that be?
Yeah, that's gonna be a nice bookend.
Yeah. So Phantom Menace is always gonna have that little place in my heart, and I'll always have fun watching it. Boss Nass spittle notwithstanding.
Darth Maul for Emperor. All right, number 7, and this one kind of upset me, not because of what it is and where it ranked, just because of our bottom 3 as a whole. It's Revenge of the Sith came in 7th.
Wow.
I was, like I said, I don't really care about the orders, but the prequel hate, and I hate that the prequels are all at the bottom of our list because of the prequel hate. I wish that, like last year when we did it, Revenge of the Sith was above something. So,
I think above Force Awakens.
Yeah, so there was a bit of a...
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a breakup there. So it's kind of disappointing for me to see. I know Andrew, this is his least favorite. There are moments that are clunky. It has another great lightsaber battle with on Mustafar. It has Obi-Wan is great in this movie. R4 is in it, which Obi-Wan completely forgets about. I really love this film, though. It doesn't have Dexter Jettster with it. I really think they should have shoehorned like Maz Kanata in The Last Jedi. Just have him show up with a jetpack. Just have him doing something, man. That's the way I would have done it. But this is the one where we get to see Darth Vader. Yeah, he yells no, but at the end of the day, I could care less about him yelling no. Rob, Revenge of the Sith, where was this on your list, if you don't mind sharing that news?
It was a little bit higher than this. Spoilers. I'm not gonna get into it now. I'll get into
number
later
1.
what it was ahead of. Yeah, it's a fine movie. It's the one that, like, really out of the prequels, it just by far happened. The most happens in this movie. Like, you get several lightsaber battles, several pretty good ones. Like the Emperor lightsaber battle's pretty damn good against Yoda. The ending between Anakin and Obi-Wan is pretty damn good. But the ending of the actual battle. It's funny that we were just talking about Phantom Menace, where literally Obi-Wan takes over the high ground from Darth Maul. In this one, he says, "I have the high ground, and it's over." Yet in the Phantom Menace, he literally just did the exact same thing and did it successfully that Anakin wasn't able to do. So yeah, it's this one is the one where Hayden Christensen shows a bit more acting than he did in Attack of the Clones. I feel like I started to feel a little bit more for them, but still, it was hurt by the fact that Natalie Portman was still phoning it in. So yeah, it's very much the one that I can turn on like several scenes of from the prequel movies and just watch them and enjoy the hell out of them. So,
Josh.
Yes, sir. I had this movie pretty high on my list. In fact, before I realized that The Last Jedi is a masterpiece, this was actually number 2 on my list, unless I'm mistaken. Literally number 2. Wow. I think Revenge of the Sith is a fantastic movie, and especially if you're a Palpatine fan, which I'm surprised that Andrew doesn't love this movie because he's such a Palpatine fan. This movie does the most, I think, for Palpatine. It's so intriguing. You get so much from it. I mean, just the scene where he's talking about Plagueis and just the way that Ian McDiarmid delivers the lines is like so captivating. And honestly, this movie, I feel as though, like, when I watch it, I see some of the cheesy moments as necessary, because this movie would have been so dark had those moments not been in there. Like, incredibly dark and kind of just like heartbreaking, really. So I don't know. I love this movie. It's probably one of the ones that I watched the most. So yeah, I'm kind of bummed that it's towards the bottom. But I'll die on the hill for Sith any day. I love that film.
It was your number 2, and because of your changing of your number 1, it ruined everything.
Damn it,
Andrew.
Look, every Star Wars movie, even my number 1, has parts I love, parts I'm not crazy about. Every one of them does. And I don't hate Revenge of the Sith at all, but it's at the bottom because the parts that I don't love, I felt were some of the most important parts of the movie. And like, I can overlook the no, as cheesy as it was. I can overlook the attack on Grievous's ship and the weird way all the dialogue was spoken in that scene. I can overlook all that. But what I just cannot get my body and my soul past is taking the most important scene in all the prequel trilogy, which is Obi-Wan finding out that his best friend in the world has turned to the dark side and turning it into 2 seconds of, Anakin, I can't watch anymore. I can't get my brain over that. So that's why it always falls at the bottom for me. But I do love stuff in it. You're right, Josh. Palpatine is the man in this. He steals the show 100%. And I love everything that he's in this. I love the battles are all a lot of fun. Seeing Kashyyyk was a lot of fun. Seeing space operas, I love a space opera inside a space opera. That's fantastic.
Pretty meta.
I even kind of dig Natalie Portman's performance on Mustafar. I do. Just the good still outweighs the bad for me, but it's just I find it as the most bad out of all these 9 movies.
So wait a minute, I gotta. No. Okay. So the moment that basically dings it the most for you is when he's watching the holograms, and you just don't think they spend enough time there, or do you think that he should have broke down and started bawling? I guess what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think that because that relationship formed the crux of this trilogy, and that the whole point of this trilogy was getting to that moment, that I think Obi-Wan's reaction there should have been a bit more that. That's one of those moments where I think all of the air should have been sucked out of the room, and it should have been you hear a pin drop, and you're watching Ewan's face as he's seeing this happen, and it should have kind of made everybody stop and be like, oh no, what's he gonna do? And maybe he breaks down, maybe he doesn't, maybe he's trying to be stoic about it because he's with Yoda. The reaction could have gone many different ways, but just the way that it did go didn't sit well for me. The way it did go felt like a kid's movie part of Star Wars, in a part of Star Wars where in that particular moment I think it should have been a grown-up movie, just in that moment specifically.
You know what's funny about that scene? I just realized too, if this surveillance footage existed, then why couldn't they just copy that over and then just show that to the entire Senate to say, hey, Emperor Palpatine's a Sith Lord? That might have just changed everything.
He hired DJ to erase it out.
Right.
Yep.
Rock?
Revenge of the Sith. I think it is my favorite because a lot of things. It's the culmination of all 3, obviously, since it's the 3rd one. But you get to really finally see how the Empire was born. Order 66 is a lot of fun. A little bit more of the clones. Not for the Jedi. You see, I guess it would be the first time we see someone fully become a Sith. He gets the red eyes. And the Mustafar scene, I feel, is at the end of the day kind of wins the lightsaber fight in the lava. It's not the best lightsaber fight, but it's ooh, and then Mustafar is sort of notorious after that, like we see in Rogue One.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. I'm sad that the prequels are at the bottom. I hopefully in the years to come it will change, because now people are feeling feelings about the new ones, so it might all notch, and maybe we'll get more people involved in this and it'll change it up. But Revenge of the Sith is great. Yeah. So, I mean, Yoda versus Palpatine, it's great.
I won't give the numbers of how many points each one got, but I will say Attack of the Clones was dead last.
Oh, one person.
Andrew and I had it high, Aaron had it okay, and everyone else had it less. It was oh my god.
Yeah.
And then Phantom Menace was next. Enough of a gap from Attack of the Clones that if anybody else raised it to number 1, it wouldn't have affected it.
Mm-hmm.
Revenge of the Sith, however, and the next 2 were all a point away.
Oh wow!
It was if anybody ranked something a little bit differently, there would have been a tie. That's how close. Yeah.
I killed Revenge.
You killed Revenge of the Sith. So they were all a point off.
Yeah.
So.
But that's okay.
No, that's what makes
change.
Cool.
I'm glad Josh changed, not because I think Revenge of the Sith should be this low, but it's this chart is about how the movies make you feel. It's not a hatred sort of thing. It's just
no.
I want to watch this movie over that movie. So.
And I wanted to say that's how close they were. So it's not like Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones was really bad, but it's not like Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith, and then everything else was way higher. Right. It was I'm gonna break this wreath. It was the Italian in me. Yeah. But that's what it is. It's so it was very close. So let's look at number 6. This one kind of shocked me.
Wow, New Hope. Wow.
New Hope, the one that started it all. We're we'll watch it later.
Yeah.
We don't need this film in our lives. Let's go over to Rob to start things off with A New Hope. You had this last on your list. I don't know what you're shaking your head.
No, it was my number 2 actually. I don't get it whatsoever. A New Hope is where it all started. It started all the magic. It gave the the magic of John Williams' score in that movie is just the number one thing that's like so awesome and so rewatchable just because of that. The characters and the way they all get introduced to Han Solo. I don't care what people say. Han shot first. The beauty of that, the whole final trench run scene is just so amazing, where Luke gets to finally embrace the Force and just Obi-Wan come in, and then the hoorah moment of Han coming in there with the Millennium Falcon is so amazing. So I don't get it. I'm for the most part flabbergasted. So,
well, Josh, are you flabbergasted?
No, I think it's because it's a cheap knockoff of The Force Awakens, and therefore everyone just likes it. In all seriousness, this is just one of those things where, like, yes, this movie's legendary, it's great, it's awesome, but like, I think part of what has made Star Wars so lasting and such a staying power is the saga of it all. The saga, man. We only see a little bit in A New Hope, and although it's really cool and it plays great as a part 2 to Rogue One now, we just go way crazier, more interesting places, and I think George even knew that. I mean, he got Kirshner and Kasdan for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, that Empire was the one. Like, and he knew it. He knew what he was doing. Empire was going to be the thing that made it not just A New Hope. You know what I mean? And it succeeds so much at that it's a victim of its own success. So that's why I think A New Hope is so far down on the list. I have it very low on my list, simply because if I'm going to watch a Star Wars movie, that's literally one of the last ones I want to watch, personally.
Andrew?
Imagine you're at a restaurant and you got a really, really, like, the best Caesar salad you've ever had in your life.
The best Caesar salad.
And you eat it and you're like, damn, that was a really good Caesar salad. Then your entree comes, and your entree is like steak and potatoes and veggies and rice. The only reason you're going to remember that entree more than the salad is because there was so much more good shit on that plate. But that doesn't, the salad quality never diminishes. It's just, it came first, and it was just one basic thing that was great. And then everything else was just, your taste buds went overload. And I think that's just why A New Hope gets overlooked the way it does. I had it number 4, I think. But you're right, Josh. It's not like my go-to. Like, oh, I want to watch a Star Wars. Let's put on the first one. It's the least dense, and that's not a bad thing. That just makes it kind of stand out amongst the others. Like, it just looks small. That's all. I think it's even the shortest of all the movies too. So it looks small compared to everything else. But it's not the size. It's how you use it.
Is the one that started all. I think Josh hit the nail on the head there, though. This is the one that. When I introduce someone to Star Wars, this is usually the first one.
Yeah.
But when I go to watch Star Wars, this is not the first one, because it is, and as Andrew said, it's small, it's simple, which is what's beautiful about it. Is there's not much to it. It stands alone. This is the true standalone of Star Wars. You don't need anything before it. You don't need anything after it. Everything is self-contained, and it could be the most perfect of all the Star Wars films and all, frankly. But like I said at the beginning, when I'm going to watch Star Wars, what is my order? This one was a little bit lower, well, not lower than this on my list, but it was lower down the list than some of the other ones that are coming up that I really love, because of that. But it is great, and I love Luke and Han in the Stormtrooper costumes is my favorite part. Absolutely love it. I don't care, but I love Stormtroopers. Brock.
I think the problem is the flashy new kids on the block are just pushing the senior student out of the class picture. What a metaphor I just thought of. It's the original, so it's like you gotta respect it. So it's sad when it's this low. And arguably, it's probably the most quotable because it's probably the one everyone's watched numerous times. And I'm still finding new things, especially I've mentioned it before with reading a certain point of view this year. It really gave me a new viewpoint of A New Hope. But it is the first one, and it doesn't have all the flavor that the other ones have because they didn't know what they were exactly going for yet. They were just like, it's a sci-fi movie, and it's still got what it adds, but like, at the end of the day, you kind of want all the fun, like aliens and what have you. So there's not as much as that, and yeah, that seems very simplistic of an explanation, but whatever.
All right, let's move on to number 5.
Number 5, top 5.
As I accidentally
standing by.
I accidentally took out Robin Andrews' camera. Number 5 is The Force Awakens.
Wow.
Awakens. Josh, talk about the movie that A New Hope
Damn.
ripped off.
Yeah, holy cow. Like, The Force Awakens is great. I wonder why. I mean, 5, I guess we're starting to get into that territory where it's just a ton of films that we love, like love. So that's probably what's happening here. But man, 5 for Force Awakens. When I walked out of Force Awakens, I just was filled with joy. I was just literally filled with joy. And the thing is I think a lot about Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. And The Last Jedi doesn't do that. It doesn't give you all those nostalgia, warm, fuzzy feelings. And it really doesn't have to, because we're back into the swing of things at this point. But The Force Awakens was such a, like, holy crap, we're getting Star Wars again. Like, do you guys remember when we even realized we were getting Star Wars again?
Yeah.
We never thought we were going to do that.
No.
Like, you know, that was so crazy. And then for them to treat it with such care and give us all the feels back again, and also kind of set the stage for new stuff, I thought was tremendous. I think that the film is super underrated in its editing. It's paced way better than The Last Jedi, even though I do tend to like The Last Jedi more. The pacing in The Force Awakens is out of control good. I mean, JJ, you know, he likes to say things like, oh, it was just a movie, oh, it was this and that. Nah, dude, he literally poured himself into that film, and I think it shows. So, I don't know, that I feel like it's a little lower than I would have wanted. But yeah, I love that movie.
Andrew.
Yeah, Josh, I think you said it there. Like, Force Awakens put a big dopey smile on my face, and I couldn't get rid of that smile for weeks, even if I wanted to. It was because it was, whether it was because it was the first one in so long, or whether it was because of just what happens in that movie. But I remember walking out of it, and for the next like month, it was as if that movie had grabbed my creativity by the arm and like injected it with crack. And I was just like, oh, I want to write this, I want to write that and that and this. And it just kind of blew open the doors on like my mind and my imagination. And it had been so long since a movie had done that. I have it at number 6, I think, on my list, but I know that's low, but like it's not to that movie's detriment. It's just like, God, I got to put these movies somewhere. And I'm like, okay, right now, which one feels like, what do I want to watch right now as I'm making the list? And Force Awakens wasn't quite there, maybe because I had just watched it like 3 times over the last few weeks. So it's never, I don't think I'm ever going to get to a point where I'm like, you know what, that was a bad movie, because it's not. I just had it lower just because in the spur of the moment, I was like, I want to dive into some other waters for now. But yeah, that movie will always put a smile on my face.
That's what's fun about these lists is the list can change tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It's how are you feeling right now versus anything. And they don't matter. Like the list, they're fun. This is fun. We're having fun, and it's fun to talk about it. It's low on my. I think this is a good spot for it, because I think, look, for me, the Starkiller Base.
Murder Planet, you mean?
Yeah, like if it doesn't blow up, I just don't like that part. It's a great movie, though. Like everyone just said, like you two just said, it got you right back into Star Wars. It felt Star Wars almost more than Star Wars feels Star Wars. Like it was like, oh my God, we're back. Everything is awesome. Abrams, he's like, you know what people love about Star Wars? This and this, and then he throws it on you, and it's intriguing to me how much hate this thing gets over as time goes on, and I'm curious to see now that The Last Jedi's out if that hate continues or if they reel in the hate, because they got a new one to throw into the fire now, and that's just how it is. Because I like Force Awakens. It's not the one that I put in my DVD player though. If I'm watching Star Wars, to be honest, because it's Attack of the Clones. Brock, you're up.
Force Awakens. I feel like New Hope and Force Awakens should just share a position on this, because and I mean that in a nice way. Like they're both valid. They both begin a trilogy, and they have to do it. They have to set groundwork, even though you could argue that Last Jedi could exist by itself, I guess. It's great. That's one of the things I like about J.J. Abrams. He likes to really honor his heroes. You know, when you watch Super 8, it's like that's his love letter to Steven Spielberg, and this is his love letter to George Lucas. And It's almost a, for the things you don't like about the prequel, this is kind of like an apology, I guess, because it's like there's return to less CG and more practical effects. They're just fun things. I think it's like everyone wanted this, and it's a good way to relaunch this franchise after 40 years of after the original trilogy and 20 or 15 years after the prequels. It's like, oh right, so like awaken your soul is what the Force Awakens means. I love it, and it started a tradition with my family where we go watch a Star Wars movie at Christmas, so I hope it continues. It's fun.
Yeah, well, it's not going to next year. Rob, you are up.
Yeah, I love The Force Awakens so much. It was the one like similar to Andrew where this movie showed up and I just wanted to watch this movie again. I wanted to watch Star Wars. I wanted to watch everything to do with this movie. Like, I saw this movie 7 times in theaters. I saw this movie 6 times, and then I went to Calgary, and then I realized to visit my friend, and then I realized that he hadn't watched the movie yet. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna go watch The Force Awakens in Calgary. That's what literally happened. Like, I feel like out of the new era of like Disney films, this is the one that kind of like flows the best. Because it's really just following the characters as soon as they get together. Like my favorite scene in the entire movie is when they finally get to Millennium Falcon. I get goosebumps every time when they say the garbage will do, and then they're running towards the Falcon. I love that scene so much, and I could watch that scene. And literally, if I'm just popping in my Blu-ray to watch that scene, it'll just carry on over to next time. Because I know that they're gonna meet up with Han next. I know they're gonna. Raftars, whatever. But still, like, as soon as it starts going to those different places, like, I just love this movie so much. I get so much affinity towards just seeing Star Wars again and seeing, like, the way we needed to see Star Wars again, where J.J. Abrams did take a cue from George Lucas with the original A New Hope. The one that left... Like, the prequels left sour tastes in a lot of people's mouths. So now they wanted to bring back Star Wars in the old way and just really bring back the magic of Star Wars. And I just felt the magic flowing throughout this entire movie.
They'll lap the Conja Club.
I think you guys hit nail on the head here too. This one flows of the 3 Disney released Star Wars films. This one has the best flow. I would argue. Yeah, I mean, you could argue.
Who edited this? They need praise, because honestly,
J.J. Abrams.
He used Final Cut Pro.
He used Movie Maker, and he did it.
He could probably do YouTube if he really wanted to.
Probably. I don't know if he can use a cell phone though. But this one really is, because like Last Jedi said, the beginning for that one, I felt the pacing was off, and Rogue One, and then for that, I thought the pacing at the beginning was off for that one. This one's like boom, 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 boom. And it was a lot of fun. Let's move on to number 4. So those 3, by the way, Force Awakens, A New Hope, and Sith were all a point apart.
Wow.
A point apart. This one and the next one were, I think, 2 points apart. So now we're really getting into the crunch of it all.
Yeah, we're in dangerous country now.
This is
where our friendships end.
This is where one of us will be leaving the room. We're on number 4, right? Yes. I gotta get this graphic. And this one is the namesake of our t-shirts, The Last Jedi. Wow.
That's pretty good.
This one, so I gotta, we're gonna start with Rob on this one. But before we get to Rob, I just want to say that this was the one where one of the 7 of us had this at number 1 immediately. Somebody else wouldn't give me their list. I'm not gonna look at Andrew. And then he finally was like, ugh. And then I'm not going to say if he put it at number 1 or not, but somebody else put it at number 1. And then somebody else, I'm not going to say they were drunk, but they're like, no, gotta go number 1 with it.
Aaron.
And it was definitely Aaron. But let's talk to the person who likes this movie more than anybody else. Rob, number 4, The Last Jedi. I'm going to take off my headset. You say what you need to say.
James, a gentleman of the Rebel Scum, there are 3 Star Wars movies that I don't like. 2 of them are Phantom Menace and Attack of Clones. The third one is The Last Jedi.
Wow.
I don't care for this movie. Like, the first time I watched it, was funny. Like, I have 3 reactions on my Stardust app. The first one was my joy of waiting to see this movie beforehand. Afterwards, I just wasn't sure what to make of this movie. And then the third time was after I saw it the second time. And that's when just my feelings just set in. Where I just feel like this movie is just complicated for the sake of complicated. It's overly complicated. I feel like there's so many twists and turns, like a lot of them not needed. Like I feel like Ryan Johnson put in twists for the sake of twists and misdirection for the sake of just making this movie more complicated, like how I said, to make this movie as big as possible. Because like stuff like Holdo being like seeming like she doesn't have a plan at all at the beginning, and then just having conflict with Poe just kind of like for the sake of conflict, so Poe can have something to do. Like I feel like stuff like that just unneeded, and like the fact that so many times you're like, oh, this person's a bad person, this person's a good person, and it just keeps flopping. Like the worst part about it, I believe, is the not Takodana. I forgot the name of the casino planet for a second.
Canto Bite.
Canto Bite. Yeah. That stuff was like it had a lot of stuff that could have worked on that planet, but then there's so many things like where they put in the horse racing stuff, and then just
they are not like, horses.
I know. And
Space
just
horses.
Yeah. Like that just took away from it a lot of times. I kind of felt like they could have just focused a lot more and just let it flow with the moments with Luke and Rey, because that was some of the best stuff in the entire movie. Seeing them interact together, and Mark Hamill, regardless of the fact of what you think of the movie, Mark Hamill, head and shoulders, does his best performance as Luke Skywalker in this movie. So that's the amazing part, and I'm going to leave out the Snoke part because that part annoyed me the most. So I'm going to just throw it to whoever is next.
I'm gonna jump in here. It wasn't supposed to be me next, but I think we've established how you three feel. So I want to come to you three at the end. And Rob, your points are all valid except for the Phantom Menace is freaking amazing. Last Jedi is a movie I've seen multiple times. Wink, wink, nod, nod. And it was one that I love the way it divides the fans. And I love, I think we talk about this on the podcast, where it's like, this is this era's prequel, where you love it or you hate it. You can't figure it out, or it's not Star Wars, or it's too Star Wars, and you don't know where not you guys, obviously, you all have opinions on it, clearly. And but people don't know where they feel, and you look at the comments on our YouTube channel, and it's like, I hate this movie, I love this movie, it ruined my childhood, it made my childhood better, and you're like, where is everyone's head at when they walk in the theater? And look, for me personally, I really like this movie. It was somewhere on my list. I don't remember. It was actually, true story, I sent Brock my initial list, and it was near the bottom.
It was like
6 or 7 on the middle. It was very low. And I redid it, and I bumped it up higher. And I'm going to say this honestly. It changed on my list when I saw it once. One time.
Yeah, you've only seen it once.
Well, when this airs, I'll see it twice.
Ooh la la.
Yeah, I'm very lazy.
That's right.
I'm very lazy, and I don't have time. But I have a lot of time, but I just don't want to go. I want to see it again. But I saw it once, and it still changed on my list. And it was a movie that, everyone knows the first time I saw it, I didn't see the damn books on the Falcon. Great. But I'm pretty sure I caught almost everything else. Like, there's a lot of things. I think Brock, you can back me up maybe, but I noticed a lot of things in the movie. Probably not everything, obviously, but enough that when I reflected on it, the first time I reflected, it was kind of like this, and then afterwards I jumped up, and I really appreciate this film. I disagree with Rob on the Snoke scene. I love the Snoke bit. Rob, don't look at me. But then I've said this, and I say this all the time, is Snoke versus Palpatine to me is different because Palpatine existed in a universe where Jedi and Sith existed. Snoke exists in one where there are no Jedi except for Luke. So just give me that little backstory, which I believe we're going to get. So that's why it doesn't really bother me. And once we get that, we're going to move on. Now, the guys that absolutely love this, Josh, you kick it off.
All right. I'll keep it short because I think I've spoken a lot about The Last Jedi, and I'm going to speak even more about it. I'm actually writing a video right now, which I think I'm going to title "Why the Last Jedi is a Masterpiece," and I will send it early to Rob before I publish it. But no, in all seriousness, this script is like huge. It's probably the biggest video I've ever worked on. I might even hire someone to do a whiteboard animation for parts of it because I think it's really important to try to explain why this film is so good. And what's strange is it's actually really good because it's so divisive. Because of where we are in media right now, this is a brilliant film because it makes people feel strange and they're compelled. It's all people are talking about right now. It sets up an episode 9, which all bets are off in. We have no idea what's going to happen, depending on what kind of a time jump they do. Like, literally, you have no idea where they could go with this. I think it gives, like, you know, a great version of Luke Skywalker. I had this pretty low on my list, and the more I thought about it, I've seen the movie 4 times now. I absolutely love this movie, like, love it, and I think the reason I'm respecting it more and more as I go in and pick it apart here and there is that, like, there are really very few holes in this. Like, Ryan, like, on first glance, when you see the movie, you're so shocked by things that you sort of check out of the movie, and then when you're thinking about the movie, you're like, well, it's jarring and it doesn't make sense. It's not really true. It's just because it's so shocking, you miss a lot and you sort of check out. The script's incredibly tight, and I think Ryan, like, gave us the exact Star Wars movie we needed at this time, because this sets up the future like, beautifully. So that's pretty much my point on it.
Andrew, you hesitated to give me your list because of this movie. Talk to me.
Josh, quick question. My American friend here. What year is Donald Trump's term finished?
That's a good question. Depending on whether or not he gets impeached, I believe it's 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
So in that case, Broom Kid for president 2020.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a Bernie guy. I don't get political online, but I'm a Bernie guy. And one of the coolest things after Trump got elected, there was a image that came out where it had A New Hope with Obama. Then it had The Empire Strikes Back with Trumpy, and then it had Return of the Jedi with Bernie, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Side Akbar, but yeah.
I remember that was a great picture. This was at number 1 for me, and you're right. It's such a shocking. Like, every Star Wars movie is so dense that you really need to watch it at least twice to see everything. And I think that this one is even more so than all the rest. The best thing I can equate it to all my gamer people out there, is the game Dark Souls. Dark Souls is one of my favorite video games of all time. And the first time I played it, I was stunned because it's such a shock to the system. It's so different from any other RPG you would ever play. And there were moments where I put down the controller and I'm like, I don't think I can keep playing this game. This is weird. I wasn't expecting this. And then I went back to that game, and now I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with the lore of that game. I play it almost every year. I love Part 2, etc., etc. And I feel like that is what went on with The Last Jedi. When I walked out of that movie, I wasn't full of love and I wasn't full of disappointment. I was sort of just in a weird limbo where I'm like, what did I just watch? Like, I'm so stunned. I think most of it came from how final it felt, and, like, it didn't feel like a middle chapter to me. It felt like an ending. Right. So I was so stunned by that and taken aback, and, like, my body and soul didn't know what to think. And then once I ruminated on it, lived in that world for a bit, went back to it the second time, that's when I walked out smiling and saying, okay, now that I understand what's coming at me and I'm not just shocked by the craziness that happened, I can look at it as a Star Wars film and be like, God, it's like the Star Wars equivalent of Inception. It's just this huge movie where so much crazy shit happens and people are going to be talking about it for a long time.
No one look at Rob. Brock?
I love this movie, and I've seen it probably 4 times by now. 5. I can't. Well, we're pre-recording this. I saw it I saw it the night right after we did a podcast with you, Josh, recently, and I think we were all talking about Canto Bight, and there's something about that whole ending where just like the Canto Bight is like, it's like a piece of artwork where you look at it and there's something new you find. Like, specifically, it was like, I think it was maybe Andrew just said it, that like Luke's projected form doesn't leave footprints in the red salt. I'm like, oh, that's genius. Anyways, besides the point, I've seen this movie and I kind of agree with what you say, Josh. It's because there's so much public hate and love for this. I think some people are just going to see it and reevaluating constantly. Like, some people are just saying, okay, I like this movie because like there doesn't seem to be I don't want to like make the people that don't like this or the Robs the Robs like see like they're totally valid points, but like I don't know what it is about when people are like, oh, the way it is, because like none of us are saying, like the people that like it aren't saying, oh, this makes my life better. Because like the people that are disliking this are like, this ruined my childhood. And I'm like, okay, we need to calm down. Like you cannot like the movie. That's fine. So like this movie, I think in the future won't be as high as it is right now, because I think it's bringing in a new era of a new type of Star Wars film. But to get there, we have to have this sort of like crazy journey where it's just like, we're gonna shake it up, and if you don't like it, too bad. So I think I put this as my number one because I am all
immediately.
Before we even decided.
You say it in the review.
Yeah, exactly. Number one, I'm just like, because I'm all in, because I want this new era of Star Wars. I think this is where it's coming.
So I just want to touch on one more thing, if I could, real quick. Just the fact I'm actually jealous of you guys that I didn't feel this way. There's so many people that like they say just this is a horrible movie. I can't see how you could think that at all, because
that's fair.
Regardless of what this movie has, there's a lot of scenes that I do like in it. It's just that the things that I don't like about it overpowered so much that make me think of it negatively.
Yeah.
For you to be saying that you hate this movie, that this is horrible and one of the worst Star Wars movies ever, is like saying like, did you really hate that Luke and Yoda scene? Yeah. Did you really hate that moment when R2 showed the message again to Luke again? Yeah. Like there's so many amazing moments in this movie. Like I wanted this movie to be good, and I'm jealous that I didn't think that it was that good. So, regardless of the fact that, I don't like the movie, but it's like, am I going to watch Last Jedi or the new Transformers movie? I'll watch The Last Jedi every time. I'll watch it 3 times before I watch the Transformers movie again. So, that's all I wanted to say. I don't like the movie, but I far from hate this movie.
But this time, Optimus has a sword, man. Come on.
I think after seeing it the one time, the title is the best. It's The Last Jedi, and it's not about the end of the Jedi. It's about Luke Skywalker, and it's the end of, he's the last Jedi. Is Luke, like the title could have just been Luke Skywalker, and that's what the title refers to. Because we're all debating for months. What does it mean? What does it mean? It just means Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
plain and simple. This is his story now. This is his ending. His coming to all, and I really really like that. I've only seen it once.
So I just want to ask something, because what's interesting is when I walked out of the super conflicted, and I'm on public record being super conflicted. We did a live stream, James and I was pretty negative on it, to be honest with you. It's funny because when I walked out of the theater, there was like so much that I loved and there was so much that I disliked, that I really felt like this battle sort of going on inside of me, and I really needed to investigate it. And I think what's interesting is, I think it's worth investigating what exactly didn't you like, and is that sort of out of the realm of like Star Wars? Like a lot of people are saying right now that this film like ruined Star Wars. People are saying that it like breaks the mold, that it disrespects all these other things, and I really don't see that at all. And a lot of people have pointed me to like other videos and people talking about it on YouTube, and it's legitimately people that are like attached to expanded universe versions of things, or these ideas like, correct me if I'm wrong guys, but it's never said in canon that Luke Skywalker left the map because he wanted people to find him. Like, I don't think that at all. He never wanted to be found, as far as I'm understanding it. And just people's sort of like, I think the reason the film to me is so good, and I guess I'm just curious if you've wrestled with any of these ideas, Rob particularly is who I'm talking to here, because it's really talking about like The Last Jedi, and there's this whole like meta thing going on with like the myth and story and what is that, and when you see the kids like talking about that story about Luke Skywalker again, what I think is brilliant about this movie is when it says The Last Jedi, it's like kind of telling us, the audience, that we get to be in on the actual story. Like, we get to sort of know what really happened, and you also get to see how it's projected to the rest of the galaxy. Like, Luke doing what he does at the end of this movie once again reignites hope, because the entire galaxy thinks of this dude as like a god. I mean, in the crawl it says they're holding out because Leia thinks she can bring back Luke Skywalker. The Last Jedi is this thing that like the galaxy just believes in and needs back. And I don't know. I just feel like it's beautiful in that way. So I guess I'm just wondering, Rob, like, have you struggled with, have you battled, like, when did you make the decision where you were like, no, I don't like this? And is there still conflict in you?
So the conflict for the most part is finished, but it's funny because after I saw it the first time, my thoughts were exactly the same as yours, where I just couldn't process exactly what I thought about this movie because I knew the stuff that I did not like. I knew that right off the bat, but then I just didn't know what the balance was. And again, I didn't know which side I fell on at that point. So it was after I watched it the second time, and again, just watched the movie and just watch this movie. That's where I felt like I also noticed the stuff about where I didn't feel like this movie flowed all that well. Where I just thought that they threw in too many things. They just threw too many things into the pile. Like, and again, I'm not going to talk about the Snoke thing because the Snoke thing I could go on for quite a while about because that's just.
Why won't you talk about the Snoke thing?
Okay, I'll talk about it very briefly. My problem with this movie was that. In a lot of ways, what Rian Johnson did with this movie is that he took what The Force Awakens was, and he took a lot of the things that Force Awakens did, and he nixed them.
Yeah.
He nixed a lot of things in The Force Awakens. That could be good, and that could be bad. Again, I'm not somebody that said that Snoke had to be somebody specifically, where it had to be Plagueis, or it had to be somebody, some other Force user. Snoke could have been Snoke, but my problem with this was that throughout this movie, as the movie was progressing, it made me so much more interested in Snoke. With every scene that came forward, with everything that they brought it forward to Snoke, it was like, as soon as Snoke revealed that moment where he said, "I connected Kylo and Rey to the Force," I was like, "Holy crap!" Like that's something that only the Force has really been able to do, where the Force imbues people with the ability to tap into it, or the midichlorian can't, or whatever we want to say it is. Like, the way that they set that up and set up all this awesome things about Snoke and then just had him get nixed and go down, that really counteracted it for me, where I was just like, I wanted to see more Snoke. I wanted to see Snoke meet Luke. I wanted to see Snoke and Luke go face to face and have a discussion about whatever happened, because there's so many things, so many holes still. Like, how did Snoke get to Kylo on that planet? And, we could still find that out on episode 9 how he got to him, but I'm gonna care less now because Snoke is dead and because all these feats of his are now diminished in some type of way because of him dying in this way, and like just being the powerhouse that he was and the abilities that he showed in this movie kind of got hurt by the fact that he went down.
Does it diminish Snoke or does it enhance Kylo?
It enhances Kylo.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, is that Kylo's the big bad in the universe. We can go on this all the time. Yeah. I think you and Josh need to do a vote of no confidence on every single scene in The Last Jedi.
I'd be down. I mean, I think
that could be an extended episode. That could be the ultimate.
I think that's a better place for that than this. This is a great discussion, but we could continue that because we've got
a very quick side, Akbar.
Yeah.
A lot of people were a little disappointed with Canto Bight and how they feel it didn't, live up to expectations. Never tell me the odds. We see more Canto Bight in Solo.
0.
Ooh. Oh.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 0. Because I think Rian Johnson wrote that after the Solo script. But also, it doesn't seem like a place...
Yeah, that's fair, actually, yeah.
Yeah, or, that's why I'm going to go... It would be cool. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not against it. I'm just saying I don't think it was going to happen. I don't think Han Solo would go to a place like Canto Bight. Although DJ was there.
Yeah.
That's an expensive set. You might as well use it twice.
It's in Croatia.
Yeah, it's actually it's
Dubrovnik.
Anybody else?
But aren't they doing a comic book, or is that they're doing something?
There's
with
a book.
Right?
The book Canto Bight
come
came out.
Yeah.
I'm actually intrigued to read that book now.
Yeah.
I wasn't so much before, although Andrew and Brock both said that. What's the Tales from
Legend of
No. The
never.
From a certain point of view.
Certain point of view is the best book of the year. Which you guys saw. So Canto Bight is now, I'm actually more intrigued because of you guys saying that and because of the movie. You guys, everyone good? Want to move on?
Number 3.
Number 3 is Rogue One.
Wow, Rogue One.
Rogue One. Andrew had this super low on his list, and he is now Rob McDonalding this one. He is like, whatever Rob just felt, Andrew completely get this. Guys, spoiler alert, this was really, really high on my list. This is one that last year was really, really low on my list and really has worked its way up over the year. I went to Vancouver at the end of October, and the one movie I wanted to watch on the plane that I actually put it on my iPad and made sure I had
Last Jedi.
Was The Last Jedi. It was Rogue One. It was Rogue One. It was Rogue One over Force Awakens, overall every other movie. This was the one I wanted to watch. And when I did the list, I said, what do I want to watch? And this one was way, way up at the top. And that's just how it is. I think it's fun. I know it's not the characters are blue, but it's not, for me, it's not about the characters. It's about the adventure that they're on, and it's about the Death Star. And the Death Star is the character, and it's about getting those plans so that we can have A New Hope, so we can rank that really, really low as well. But that's really what this is about, and that's what I think is so fascinating about this. And when I watch this movie, it really gives me hope for Han Solo and Obi-Wan, because I think Han Solo is going to be, I'm going to say this right now, the most fun Star Wars movie we're going to get, period. Because it doesn't have to do anything. It just has.
That's fair.
It just has to be fun. Look, I could be completely wrong. I hope we all hope that I'm right on that. Because why do we want them to get worse? We should want them to get better.
Alrighty then.
But Brock, let's go to you. Rogue One, you love K2SO.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. K2SO, the best. Though, I did the trivia game that they play before movies last night, and it was who is the best droid? The first one was 2KSO and then BB-8, and then BB-8 was in all three of them. And I'm like, BB-8. But, like, I was conflicted because K2SO, like, he should be in other things. I want them to redo these movies, or do the original trilogy and throw K2SO in the background, and I will buy it for the 4th time. I've been thinking about this movie. This movie's great because it's like, you want to call Last Jedi the Dark Horse, but I feel like this is the real first foray into something different. This is the herald for Last Jedi, because this to have none of the really important characters but still connect some way, and this is the one I hear from what I like to call the normal people, normies. They talk about this movie more than Force Awakens because they like this one. A lot of people like this one more than Force Awakens. I mean,
Of the normal people, like
of
not
the
of the
normies.
obsessive fans.
Yeah. So like I've heard people's like, it's like, well, I like those Star Wars movies. It's like Force Awakens, it was good. It's like I really liked the Rogue One. I like that one better. Like, they like have this. I'm like not part of the conversation. I'm just overhearing it because people don't talk to me. But yeah, it's like this is the first real chance that Lucasfilm took. Was like, well, what if we did this? It's still enough. It explains. People can understand, and then at the end, it's like, oh wow, I totally get how this all works together. But this is the first chance. This the where they put the cards on the table. It's like, okay, this succeeds, we can do Last Jedi. I don't think that's actually how it works, but like, I think they feel safer about taking a chance with a movie like Last Jedi because they're like, if we can give them a movie with no Luke Skywalker or Leia or Han, it's like, oh, we'll just throw like Tarkin in and Vader shows up, but he's not really important to it. He's just there.
But he has one of the best scenes in all of
Oh
Star
yeah,
Wars.
hands down. But it's like, if we can do well, and we can change what we want. So I think like this is an important movie. It's sort of like the John Baptist to the Last Jedi. Jesus Christ, I'm full of metaphors. It's that time of year.
I'm gonna put these in a book.
Yeah, so it's a fun movie. It's great. K2SO and Vader at the end, like Vader being able to do that, like I think that's what George Lucas has been dreaming of for years. For a man in that kind of costume to pull off that kind of Jedi or Force powers is great.
Andrew, your thoughts on the lowest movie on your list?
What?
No, it wasn't. I'm joking.
This was number 7 for me, but literally only because I was just like, I gotta put stuff somewhere. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that's like a big complaint to think of. And like, I loved it. It just happened to be number 7. And at the end of the day, when I look back at it, it gets me so excited for the future because it was an experiment that succeeded tremendously. The idea of a Star Wars story was still something we were all a little, I don't know about this, but it did the job. And now it just gets me so pumped for any future film that's not a Skywalker episode because, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago in one of the podcast episodes, now we have 3 time periods. We have the Rey period, we have the Empire period, we have the Clone Wars period, maybe 4 if you want to count Old Republic, even though it's not a thing yet. And these Star Wars stories can be just a grab bag of fun, just a box of chocolates where it's like, the next one's going to be from this time period with these random people. Oh, I'm sorry, I just spilled your drink all over the floor.
It was empty.
Okay, good. That's how excited I am about this movie, though, folks. I'm willing to ruin our set for it. And that's my number 7 movie, so just imagine. But that's how it makes me feel. Like, God, like every announcement they make of a new movie, I'll just be like, oh God, like it could be anything. And the little sprinklings of Vader, the little sprinklings of Tarkin and Leia, that's the perfect amount of old to put into the new. So I love it. And you even said so, Brock. You said the normies, they really flock to this. And my best friend is one of those. He's not a Star Wars guy at all. He really liked Last Jedi. He thought Force Awakens was meh, but he said Rogue One is still my favorite. And I don't know, there's just some kind of special magic about that movie that makes it stand out, and it gives me hope for the future of these Star Wars stories.
Rob.
Yeah, this is a good movie. I like this movie. I think the biggest thing about this movie was the fact of all the build up to it. Like all last year where there was so much talk made of the reshoots and all this type of stuff, how this movie had to be Frankenstein together to an extent, or at least that's what it was. But this movie got put together really well. Like, people complain about, the fact that where's this scene, where's that scene, why isn't Jyn Erso running with the Death Star plans in the field in slow motion again anymore. Yeah, I think the biggest fault in this movie in general is just that maybe the build-up is a little slow at the beginning. It's very slow paced. So it's kind of like a movie where, like, some people might have to get into the mood to watch if you're going to watch the entire thing. But you can put on that third act at any moment, and that third act will have you for the 30 minutes or however long that is. Because that space battle is amazing. It out of the space battles, it killed anything that Force Awakens had, like, for example. That space battle was so good. And yeah, we already talked about the Darth Vader scene. That Darth Vader scene is so awesome. Like, people can complain about how the characters, maybe they weren't as as elaborated on as people wanted them to, but it's an ensemble movie, so you got motivations for every character to a certain extent. It's all in there. You just got to look for it, right? It's not put out there like on a paper platter for you and elaborate on as much as some people would. But I think there's plenty in there, and I like pretty much all the characters. So this ragtag group of rebels is a good group of characters. I enjoy them.
Josh, tell us why you like that opening title font so much.
Oh my God, it's so dope. This movie's awesome. This movie's really great. I love especially the Guardians of the Wills. That, by the way, is why we know each other, guys, because I made that video, James commented on it, and that's how this whole thing started. But the Guardians of the Wills was so cool. As a hardcore Star Wars fan, to see that sort of brought back into the fold, I was like, whoa, that's really cool. The Vader scene, obviously awesome. Just on a side note here, too, I read the Catalyst, the novel before Rogue One, and it is still one of my favorite books in the new canon. James Luceno crushes that book, and so it's kind of tricky for me to like sort of separate my experience of reading that book and then going into this movie, because it really fills the whole thing out. Like, if you know all these characters already, you don't know Jyn at all. Actually, she's not really in the book. She's in the book as a child, but you sort of like know her father. So like when people name drop him, whether they're name dropping him in a negative way or a positive way, it resonates. And so that is especially, I think, because I've heard from some people like that they don't know any of the characters. Like the people that attack the movie say, like, I don't know any of the characters. They're all going to die. Like, it's, you know what I mean? I thought it was incredibly bold to kill all of them, and I'm super happy that they don't make out on the beach before they die.
Me too.
You know what I mean? Like, honestly, that's some really nice, subtle storytelling, and I really liked how they all departed. The scene where Jiayang Wang comes over and his best buddy's dying, and what Chirrut says to him, me in the Force and you will always find me. That hits me. That hits me deep. So, love the movie. A lot of good emotional stuff, and the can do we want. Like Death Troopers, come on. Death Troopers are awesome.
Death Troopers. Gareth Troopers, all the troopers, and Praetorian Guards.
Okay, before you put it up, what I will say about this year's list is, like, we can argue where all the things are, but the two big hitters are still the 2 and 1 spot, and like I think that says a lot about those movies. So.
And they are one. There was 1 point separating.
Wow.
Wait. Yes, because Josh's last minute change dropped one. So it was really close.
Josh, you're like the last Jedi.
They were
you're
two.
the dark horse.
They were two.
Right?
They were 2 away. They were 2 points away.
And now it's 1. Okay.
No. There was 3. Now it's 1.
Okay.
No, now it's 2.
Math.
They're very close, guys. They're very close.
So here we go.
Number 2. Return of the Jedi. It got taken over by The Empire Strikes Back. So Empire Strikes Back initially had 4 number 1s and was dropped to 3. The difference between... So it had the exact same number 1s as The Last Jedi had. The difference is... Wait, did it have 3?
Yeah, I think it probably had 3 in
No,
there.
it didn't. It had 2. I can't remember. No, because Josh, you changed it. Look, the difference was... And the difference... we'll get into Empire in a second. But what really happened was... Empire was higher up. Return of the Jedi showed up lower on a couple of lists, and they will not be invited back next year. Those people. So I'm going to go first, because... no, I'm not. Josh is going to go first. Josh, you go first.
I love Return of the Jedi. It's probably one of the ones I watch the most. I think the reason it's not higher than Empire for me is because the special editions with that like that scene is like one of my most hated scenes in Star Wars. I hate it so much. So because it has that, I like have to drop it only slightly. But once you sort of get past that, and honestly, I will skip that a lot on the Blu-rays when I watch them. The movie's fantastic. I mean, you get Luke Skywalker with the green, you get him wearing the dark. He's so mysterious, so strong with the Force. Facing down his father. The scenes at the end are amazing. The Emperor, and the scene that gets me the most out of this movie, the one that I think of it a lot. I think of the scene a lot, especially considering what happens in The Last Jedi, considering a lot of what happens after this movie. I think about Luke burning the corpse of Vader sort of on his own. He's like alone burning the corpse of Darth Vader, and just the looks that he has when he's watching that go down and what just transpired and everything. It's just so compelling to me. It's a good ending and just a quiet moment that I think a lot about in Star Wars. So I like the movie a lot, but I do have Empire slightly higher.
Andrew.
Jedi is at number 2 for me. It's there's so much to love here. I mean, I could talk about the Emperor for days. I could talk about my favorite lightsaber duel ever for days. But I think the thing that keeps taking me back to how much I love this movie is the whole Jabba's palace sequence. And it's just, to me, that's the perfect way to come back to all these people. When you end a great movie where the heroes have been stepped on and they are just downtrodden and everything is going wrong for them, this is how you pick up the next movie. One by one, you throw them back into the mix and you see like the way you're introduced to everybody without saying it, just by showing them on what they were doing, shows the audience you've been away from these people a long time and they've been getting their shit together. From like, Lando going undercover, R2 has this whole plan that we don't know because we don't speak beep. Leia doing her boosh thing, and then Luke showing up. Like, that whole thing was just one after the other. And I remember in the novelization of Return of the Jedi, that scene was made even better because a lot of it was told through the point of view of Lando, because he was like always there from the get-go. And Lando kept describing the whole plan to free Han like a sabacc game, and he described all the characters as like different cards with different abilities, and he kept referring to himself as Wild Card Lando because he's there from the get-go and Jabba has no idea what he's up to, and that just put a whole new spin on that scene for me. I kind of like
yeah, that's great.
But
Josh's Skype is gone.
Jabba's palace, to me, that just makes an already great movie even better. I love you, Jedi.
Robert?
Yeah, I really like Return of the Jedi. I mean, it's Josh nailed it on the head. The thing about the thing that hurts this movie is the special editions, like the fact that they decided to include that scene. I don't like that scene either, Josh. The dancing scene and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't like it. The reason to just add a mouth into the Sarlacc pit, that just seems weird. And maybe the worst cardinal sin of them all with the removing Yub Nub and putting in their other song at the ending. The saddest thing about it all is just that the special editions have now technically been out longer than the original cut was. was.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I love plenty of scenes about this movie, and Jabba the Hutt just in general at the beginning as this first like volume of villain throughout this is really awesome. Yeah, perfect. I was about to do that, but Josh probably killed my impression of what I was about to do, so that's good. But yeah, and the throne scene is amazing. Like the whole like final chapter of it all is really awesome. Like the Ewoks are awesome on their own, but that's a thing that I don't really like as well. Just the fact of how much of a factor they came into play at the end. But that's only a minor thing. Return of the Jedi is awesome.
I absolutely love Return of the Jedi. It was on TV the other night, and Erin was going through the channels, and she said, "James, Return of the Jedi is on. Do you want to watch it?" I go, "Yeah, if you want." She goes, "I do." And I sat down, and I was like, "I'm going to watch like 5 minutes and walk away." And I watched the entire movie on TV with commercials.
Sounds like an AMC.
And I have it on. I have Blu-ray, like digital, VHS, DVD, beta. Laserdisc. No, I don't.
Cave painting.
I was just gonna say cave painting.
So I love it all. Jabba's Palace is one of my all-time favorite things, and the one thing that this had, and when we talk about The Force Awakens being so low and how people are maybe part of the reason why people are not liking it so much years later, is it got that nostalgia in there, but there's something about these ones that I don't want to say better, but there's something about them that, like, when you watch, it's weird because when you watch Force Awakens, you're like, that takes me back to Star Wars. Then when you watch the original trilogy, you're like, oh, this is Star Wars, and that's the one thing that I think is brilliant about Rob's favorite of them all is The Last Jedi, is that it doesn't try to do any of that, and so I think over time, I'm really curious to see next year's list on all of it. But Return of the Jedi it was my number one. It was my number one last year. It was my number one when I was 4. Was it? Yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up until I was born in 1981. I had the Ewok Village, so there's a nostalgia there that these new ones are never going to match for me because I'm never going to have Last Jedi underwear. Well, I might, but I'm not going to have Last Jedi curtains. You know what I mean? It's biased and it's not right, but who cares? It's a list. It's not right.
It's not right.
But it doesn't matter because that for me is the nostalgia of it will always be there. And Ewoks, I saw Ewoks on Ice, Brock.
I love this movie. It's my favorite. I think of George Lucas's original movies, it's my most diverse in what you see. Like I'm a big fan of, like, there's a lot of aliens, and it's not just like, oh look, there's an alien in the background. Like they talk with aliens. It's it's more in the prequels as well. But like even when the battle, the second battle of the Death Star, there's a more diverse in what the ships look like. You see more of the A-wings, there's B-wings, and you see more of of different types of pilots, stuff like that. And then the leadership isn't just a bunch of old white dudes. You get Mon Mothma, Admiral Akbar. Stuff like that is great. It's sort of the moment where, like, okay, George, you can do what you want in this one. I don't know how it actually worked, but I think it's when you compare New Hope and Return of the Jedi, you're like, oh wow, this is crazy. How like it's grown as a thing, and Ewoks are my favorite thing. It brings a close. If we were to never gotten any other movies, the original trilogies would have been fine because it just like it tells you a story and it wraps it up, and he's like, ooh, what would happen next? And I think the ending of Return of the Jedi is what launches the expanded universe prior to the Disney purchase. Like, we wanted to know more. It's just like, now because it's like, well, now it's peace. It's like, no, there's like these characters so engaging. So it's a wonderful movie. It would always be my number one. It was number 2 on my list because of Last Jedi. Like I said, I'm all in because I think there's a new Return of the Jedi out there.
I think sorry to cut you off. I think 9, because we're going to talk about Empire, and I think Last Jedi leads us into Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Because Return of the Jedi is not Return of the Jedi without the one that comes before it. Yeah. So, who knows what's going to be like next year and 2 years on these ranking shows if we're still doing these ranking shows. But it's my number one and always will be. These ranking shows are going to take too long because there's going to be too many of these movies to rank.
I know.
And number 1, Caravan of Courage.
Oh my god!
I thought it was Clone Wars animated.
Empire Strikes Back.
The Empire. Oh yeah, we should say that these are only live action movies. That's why the Clone Wars movie. Whatever. That's number 11. So Empire Strikes Back is number 1. Brock, why don't you start things off?
It's not number 2 just because I'm biased and I love Return of the Jedi. But Empire Strikes Back is one of the most talked about Star Wars movies in the history of film. Like, it's sort of the idea that, like, it could end poorly, even though, like, our heroes tried their best. And it's just like, I think maybe not so much, like, movies can be downers, but, like, this is science fiction, and you're kind of like, well, I come to see some amazing adventure. To end on such a failure for our heroes, it's like, wow. But, like, I would love to go back in time and experience Empire Strikes Back for the first time. It's one of the things I like about Star Wars movies. People react. It's almost like going to see Get Out. It's like, if you go to see the movie Get Out without an audience that is interactive with the screen, you're like, why are you here? Even on my third viewing of Last Jedi on a Tuesday night, people applauded at the end when I know I'm totally Akbaring right now, but like when Holdo does the light speed through the dreadnought, people were like, "Oh my god!" And it's just like, it's not real, but like the visuals are crazy. So like, I think that all roots from Empire Strikes Back for that ending with Luke and Vader, and then Han being frozen in carbonate. That mentality of Star Wars films where we're like shocked by something comes from this. So you gotta give it respect. It's always gotta be in the top 3, if not 2. Like, so I'm excited for a day where it gets ousted, but who knows? I don't know if you could do that.
You could. I couldn't. Actually, this was number 4 on my list.
What?
Because I'm rocking the boat. Please, I
Rocking
knew
the
everybody
boat.
was going to put this number 1. It had no fear of mine. I did do it at all. I was like, you know what? I want to watch Phantom Menace ahead of Empire Strikes Back. And Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. No, I'm just joking. This is arguably the best Star Wars film. This is the one. Look, A New Hope is probably the best. Anyway, contradicting myself. This is the one that kicks off Star Wars as we know it. A New Hope happens. It establishes everything. You're like, oh, cool. This is the galaxy. And this is the one that says, this is where it's going. And the ironic part of it all is it is the smallest of the Star Wars stories. It is Han and Leia, and it is Luke and Yoda.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I mean, Last Jedi is kind of similar in that respect, but there's still more in Last Jedi. It's just so small. Yet, like I just said, because of this film, you get Return of the Jedi, and then you get Force Awakens, and then you get Rogue One, and you get Last Jedi, and you get 9, a new final Last Hope ish, whatever it's called. You get them because of Empire Strikes Back, which you get because of New Hope. But Empire Strikes Back really is the one that branches it all out. Andrew, your thoughts on Empire?
Yeah, this was my number 3.
Ooh.
It's
almost like you guys had the same top 3.
I know, right?
Just do the mirror thing.
It's great. It's great. I love it. I think the asteroid chase might be one of my favorite Star Wars moments ever. Like the music in particular is just so sexy at that chase. It's got somebody mentioned earlier, I don't remember who it was, they said A New Hope might be the most quotable. I think I disagree. That was you. I think I might have to fight you, Brad, because I think this might be the most quotable. There's something about the dialogue I don't think has ever been sharper in any of the first 6 movies as it was in this one. I to this day think it might still be the funniest Star Wars movie. And I know it doesn't get that a lot, but the interaction between Han, Chewbacca, Leia, and C-3PO, there's just something there where I'm like, I could watch those 4 stuck in traffic for like 5 hours and never not be entertained. So it hit all the right beats. It has the greatest Jedi Master of all time, and he's just a Muppet, but he steals our hearts. I mean, like, what more can you say? It's wonderful.
Rob?
Yeah, I love this movie. This is my number 1. And the thing about this list that turned out being the case was that this list was actually the exact same pretty much as I had last year, minus putting Last Jedi into a spot. Empire Strikes Back is one of my favorite movies of all time. I believe full on that one of the reasons why Darth Vader is considered to be one of the greatest movie villains of all time is because of this movie, because of how menacing he is, because he's not hesitant to just choke out a guy that's failing him. Somebody just like... imagine if you're one of those people, knowing that you could die at any moment, but Darth Vader's just going to kill you. It's just so amazing about him in this movie. The ultimate reveal. I still remember where I was when I first heard Luke, I am your father. That's the amazing part about this movie. And whenever I think about the Force and what the Force is, I always go to that line with that speech from Yoda where he just says it's but the rock, the tree, everything. Like the way he describes what the Force is so magical. And then what's even more amazing is the fact that it's dialogue being said by a Muppet. It's a puppet that's telling you this, and you can buy it so well because of how well Frank Oz is doing this character. So Yoda is amazing in this movie, and just the way they do both these scenes, and the fact that Mark Hamill is questionable in A New Hope, but he brings it a lot more in Empire Strikes Back. So there's so many amazing things about this movie. I could go on for 10 minutes at least. But yeah, I love this movie. It's my favorite Star Wars movie ever.
Josh, why was this number 9 on your list?
Because I hate Star Wars. A lot of awesome things have already been said. I have a special connection with this movie just because it's one of the first ones I remember watching when I was super young. So when I was very, very young, I would stay at my aunt's house, and she had all of the Star Wars movies on VHS, and we would just watch them constantly. And the one that resonated with me the most was Empire, but I would immediately also watch Jedi too. I think what's interesting is the dynamic between Empire and Jedi, because Empire, as we kind of went over here, establishes the saga as we know it. It was such a good film. Like Kasdan and Kirshner just rock this thing, and it's so dark, and yet the chemistry is so good between the cast. There's lighthearted moments. When you first are introduced to Yoda, it is hilarious. I love that Yoda, and I love that we see him again in The Last Jedi, that same Yoda. But what's so interesting about the Empire Strikes Back is it's so effing great that it sort of casts a shadow over the rest of Star Wars. And yet Star Wars has somehow been able to work outside of that. Like, I think the reason that Jedi is so amazing is because, like, how do you follow Empire? Well, I think Jedi is the perfect film to follow Empire, because it might not be as contextually sound. It might not be, like, from a strict film perspective, like, better, but it takes you in all these weird directions. It's like this beautiful follow-up to, like, a absolute masterpiece. So those two are really, like, conjoined to me. Like, they were just really kind of inseparable. And Empire is just so fun, man. The wisdom you get from Yoda is absolutely incredible. The end with Luke and Vader, I mean, it's so iconic. You guys remember that crappy Matthew McConaughey movie about the dragons?
Oh, Dragonheart? No, that's
Reign of Fire?
Reign of Fire, yeah. So even within that movie, they're retelling that scene. They're retelling the scene of Empire in that movie, because it's like years later, it's post-apocalyptic and all this stuff. And even when they're retelling that scene, I got the feels. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so pop culturally relevant. It's one of the greatest mythological reveals of our time. It's perennial. It's ancient. It's got a lot of stuff going on. And it's the best. I do want to point out too that I got the bottom and first picks absolutely correct when we first did our predictions.
You did.
You
win a porg.
You can write the check out to either the Den of Nerds or Joshua Lucas. Either one will work.
We'll take that out of your sponsorship that you give us for Never Tell Me the Odds.
So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
And most importantly, this movie gives us the wonderful song "Seagulls" by Bad Lip Dubs or Bad Lip Reading. I saw a whole new angle of that film when they released that. Yeah, I love that video so much.
So we just ranked Star Wars. It's fun and challenging to do because these movies are just one lump thing to me. I can't wait till I guess it'll all be on digital, but when I just get all not 10, 11, whatever, there'll never be an ending, I guess. Yeah. But you know what? For the saga aspect anyway, I hope one day when I have all 9 and I feel like they're all one, because right now I still feel like the Disney ones are separate, and I think it's because they're not in that box set. I really feel like when I grab the Blu-ray, I have 6 movies in a Blu-ray, and there's 2, I guess, kind of missing, and I'm like, well, I'm going to watch these ones now. So it's always going to be Attack of the Clones every single time. This was a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to next year's.
Yep, I am too.
Because Last Jedi will have a year to marinate. That will be Rob's number one last year. I guarantee you that. Will Return of the Jedi come back for these two over here? Well, this guy and that guy.
Yeah.
We don't know. Will it drop for me? No. Han Solo is the X factor for me. Josh, where can everybody find you at?
Check out the Den of Nerds YouTube channel, website, Facebook page.
Rob, you've completed your 25 days of Stardust Christmas things, but where can everybody find you?
Yeah, it was a tiring one. It's you can catch me at Robert E. McDonald on both Twitter and Instagram, and follow me on Stardust. Download the Stardust app. I'm at Rob Mac on that app.
And Andrew Fantasia.
You can find me right here, and then you can find me on my own channel, just called Andrew Fantasia on YouTube. I have a show called Thumb Together, where I talk about movies that are not Star Wars, and sometimes Star Wars.
Yeah, you just almost lie because you have a Last Jedi review.
I do. Yeah.
Where you give it a 4.5 out of 10.
Dang.
You should cut it in half, probably.
Oh wait, have you settled on your score from your review with Rob? Because you said 9-ish.
Me?
Yeah, you were like 9 question mark.
Oh, from that. I'll go with 9.5 now.
All right. Cool. I think you're 0.1 too high. Brock, how about you?
You can find me chilling in the Sarlacc pit, and I periodically check my social medias on Twitter and Instagram at BFSmink.
Find me at Petsafina everywhere. Happy New Year, everybody. 2018 is here.
Wow.
We got a cool year. Dun and Nerds are going to be doing some cool stuff this year. We're going to be doing some stuff to try to steal some of his subscribers. Thanks a lot. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Hit that little bell if you want a notification. Because we've got Andrew is taking on Den Allen January 29th.
Oh, no.
On a Duel of the Fates right here where Josh has lost to Rob, Darth Ward, and Andrew has also lost to him. So, well, we know one thing's for sure. Darth Ward will not be victorious in this one.
In the Last Jedi trivia. Let's do the Last Jedi trivia.
Oh, my goodness.
And in 2 weeks, all of us are going to get together again for a 1 month later Last Jedi roundtable to kind of give our overall thoughts. And Rob will be like, this is the best movie ever. And Josh will be like, this is the worst. Total change. Thanks a lot, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And Brock, you were always scum.
Rebel scum.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.